Hello, everybody. It's Donna Cravata, and we're back again with another Real 50 Over 50 interview. And today we have Laura Ballerini. And Laura is a seasoned artist and graphic designer who has been running a thriving design boutique for over 26 years and now designs words as well as imagery. With over 40 years in the design industry as a whole, Laura sees the influence that art and design have in our daily lives. Through her unique creative lens, she shares personal stories that illustrate countless ways art and design affect all of us. She's the recipient of a Summit Creative Award, a Webby Award, and an avid traveler visiting galleries around the world, learning about various cultures, their people, and their passions. She's the best-selling author of The Green Velvet Chair, which is in its second edition, and has recently found her inner badass and radiates her quietly fierce disposition in her work, in her life, and from the back of the room. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you for having me today. Appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so happy to spend some time with you and introduce you to people. So let's talk about stories. I think we both really love stories and well, like what it means when you lead with the story, when you show a bit of vulnerability, when you let people see who you are.
Yeah, storytelling has been, it really changed my life. I've always been a quiet, shy introvert, didn't talk much, usually, sat at the back of the room and listened. And as I was getting older in my career, I realized I really need to learn how to speak and be more articulate. So I took a storytelling workshop through actually Adele Fedoric, and I worked with her through several workshops, and it was great because she talked about story moments and just
Mm.
capturing that little moment. They may happen, several times a day, and just capturing those. And actually we captured them in a spreadsheet, and then later we'd go and pick the one that we liked and wrote a story about it. And
Mhm.
that's where I started writing stories, working in this workshop, presenting our stories to the group. And I realized, oh my gosh, I can make people laugh, and I can make them cry, and I
Mm.
can actually, get some emotion from this group. And I realized, okay, there's something here. My stories are compelling, and they're some of them are just little stories, but they somehow touch a nerve, or
Yeah.
they're kind of universal stories that everyone can go, oh, I can relate to that. I felt the same way. And that's where I realized the power of storytelling. And I'm a designer, so basically I am telling stories, and I have been telling stories through graphics
Mhm.
my whole career. But through this storytelling workshop, I realized, oh my goodness, the power of combining words with visuals is such a powerful um, set of tools. So it's been great. And as you know, I've been working with Kathy Sparrow, who is my editor on my book, and through Adele and through Kathy,
Mhm.
it's been a real, they really changed my life and how I speak, how I articulate my design, as well as stories of everyday life. So it's been a real game changer.
That's amazing. And, I'm sure you experience this as well. This, like when you work with clients, they often think they don't have any stories to share. Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. And the last couple of years, when I first started out as a young designer, it was like, okay, what colors do you like? What
Mhm.
brands do you like? What's your tagline? And I would kind of take direction from those simple things. And
Mhm.
as I got older, I started working with an associate, and we started doing discovery sessions with
Mhm.
clients. And that's where we're not starting with your favorite colors, and we're not starting with what your tagline might be. We're starting with, why did you start this company? What was
Mm.
the passion? What was the change that you want to make? That is the brand. And we kind of dig right deep into the roots of, why are we here, and why are we building this brand for your company? That just changed the whole landscape, right? And
Yeah.
even the client lit up going, oh, I've never been asked these kind of questions. Didn't think about it. You're asking questions that are new to me. So
Right.
all of a sudden we're learning as, the brand designers, but they're also learning, going, never thought of that question. So I found discovery session is helping me as a designer. It's also helping the client. We're digging deep. This isn't
Mhm.
about colors and taglines. We'll
Mhm.
get there, of
Yeah.
course,
That's
but
the
it's really
lipstick.
about, yeah. Yeah. And I don't do lipstick, just to be clear. Design is not putting lipstick on an application or a website.
No.
Design is so much deeper than that. It's really about creating emotion,
Yeah.
visual emotion with strong words.
Yeah. I always like to say, you want to create marketing that people feel before they can hear it or see it.
Absolutely.
And because that's when you know. I mean, like what,
Exactly.
like what we were talking about before we went live, you can't create viral. Viral happens when people have an emotional reaction to something. And,
Exactly.
you can do your best to try and create that situation, but you can't predict it.
Yeah. No, that's very true. Very true. And that's why even when I design, we go through a discovery session, then we come up with a plan, and we go through lots of iterations of design, present to the client before we actually get there. Brand design is the hardest. Logo design, brand design, that's the hardest thing in my
Mhm.
career to do because it's so subjective, it's so personal, and it is that emotional bond
Mhm.
that client has with everything in their core, right? So it's a very subjective piece of work when you're working with brand because it's an emotional thing,
It
right?
is, but it's also an iterative process because, like you had mentioned earlier, is that, they're like, oh, nobody ever asked me these questions before. I hadn't thought about it that way before. So it's a process that they have to go through to now try and kind of layer this on to what they
Mm-hmm.
thought they were doing because they're
Exactly.
really doing something totally deeper than what they thought they were doing, and then putting words to that, putting imagery to that, putting structure around that, and building a foundation for it. um, you know they're not going to like a lot of things at first. Their instant
Mm-hmm.
reaction is going to be no until they could sit with it and kind of like let it settle a bit.
Yeah, and I think when we do these discovery sessions, one thing I do, I've learned to talk, I've learned to articulate, but I've always been a good listener. And I do think I listen, I take notes, we videotape the interviews. So I'm going back and I'm researching what did they say and how did they say it. And I'm really trying to be empathetic
Mhm.
to who they are and how I can represent that visually. So it becomes a symbiotic relationship in a way, right? Like you work very closely with clients when it comes to developing brand.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do a different part of it, but it's the same thing because it's personal and it's vulnerable, and it's often showing the things and sharing the things that they didn't even realize that they'd have to share as part of their business. Like, they didn't realize they'd have to go there. And,
Yes.
from a visibility perspective, when some people start to realize this, they step back and they don't want to do it,
Mm-hmm.
because, they thought it was just, I'll go on a podcast and talk about this canned topic and then I'll go about my day.
Right.
But that's not what gets reaction.
Yeah, canned solutions don't work anymore. People are
Mhm.
so savvy and they can see through the BS, right? It's like this has to be, I know authentic is a very overused word, but
Yeah,
it's about being real.
yeah,
And that's what I like about you and your program because it is about real. It's real. And it's raw sometimes and it's vulnerable. And that's kind of what gets to the root of, what's going to make this work.
well,
As I'm talking about brand, but really
yeah,
getting to that raw, vulnerable state sometimes is what you need to do to get to the essence of how you want to project yourself.
yeah. Because if you don't deal with it, whatever it is, whatever that it is, it's there, and it's going to come up when you don't want it to,
Exactly.
like
Yes.
maybe in the middle of an interview.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me some of your favorite stories about working through this process and helping people get to like the root of who they are and what they represent, and like what that transformation is like for them.
Yeah. For me, I'm actually going to tell a story about myself because
Okay.
this transformed how I work with clients.
Hmm.
And it's a story that happened a few years ago now. I belong to a networking group. We met every Wednesday for breakfast, and we had name tags. We had a mic that we passed around, and we did a roll call, talked about We introduced ourselves, what we did, what was new that week. And one week they switched it up and we had to take someone else. We were given someone else's name tag and we had to introduce ourselves as that person.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, oh no, how am I going to show up in this group? Because I had just recently joined.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we went around the room and we introduced ourselves as our name tag. And when it came to the fellow that had my name tag, he stood up and he said, "Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Ballerini, and I'm a shy, quiet person, and I'm the nicest person in the group. I get along with everyone." And I was floored. I left the meeting after that so disappointed, going, he didn't say what I did. He didn't say, what projects I've been working on. He didn't talk about what my title was. I thought, I'm a nice
person that'll drive me to the airport.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm a nice person. And at the time I was quite annoyed and I thought, damn, I wish someone would describe me as a badass. Mm-hmm. So from there I went to one of my meetings, and it was an old client that I worked with for a long time. And he had said, I had told him the story because I was upset. I said, well, he said, I'm a nice person. Really? So anyway, he leaned across the boardroom table, my client, and he goes, well, I guess you got to show your fangs. And I go, I don't have fangs. But I went home and it was a long day, walked in the door. And my husband goes, oh, hi, honey, how was your day? And I go, terrible. Someone called me nice. So I thought, I wish I could be a badass. And I started thinking back about my life. I stood up to a bully in the playground when I was a kid. That's badass. Mm-hmm. And, when my mother passed away and I wanted to do her eulogy, my sister-in-law phoned me and she said, you can't do the eulogy. You're too shy and quiet. You're going to end up in a pool of tears on the podium. I know she was saying that for my goodwill, to protect me. But I said, I just hung up the phone and said, just watch me. And I did the eulogy, and people came up to me and said, wow, it was very good. And then at my daughter's wedding, I had a bottle of wine. We were dancing to UB40's Red Wine. And some of the moms were dancing on the dance floor with bottles of wine in our hand. And when I exited the dance floor, one of my daughter's friends, who is very outgoing, said, I see where your daughter gets her attitude. You are a badass. So it made me realize we're all a badass in our own way, right? And I think it's digging deep, finding that badass in each of us. And that honestly is what I try to do when I'm talking to my clients. Like I say, what is your passion? What are you really about? What change do you want to make with your company, right? And your services and your products. So that story, it defined me because it made me dig deeper and go, I am a badass, even though I'm quiet and shy. And by the way, being called nice, I'm very, very pleased that people would describe me as a nice person, because in today's world, we need to lead with being nice and being kind. So looking back now, feel privileged that that's how he described me.
Oh, you needed a balance. You weren't being fully represented. So do you put badass on your name tags now?
No, I had a website called Badass Ballerini, and I actually changed it to lauraballerini.com. It was a bit cringy because I am that shy, quiet person, and that URL was it was kind of cringy as time went on.
You know what? I think it's not something that you need to lead with. I think it's something that people just need to learn through interaction.
You got it. I completely agree. And that's where I've come to realize that I changed my URL to lauraballerini.com. It just feels better.
Yeah, and it makes it so much easier for people to find you.
Yeah. So
now tell me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Tell me about your book.
Yeah, so my book, honestly, it's a labor of love. Like I say, I worked with Kathy Sparrow, who helped me edit it. I had done it's a series of short essays. So it's not a novel. It's not a book that you have to read from end to end. It's a book that you can pick up and read one chapter at a time. It's a labor of love. I worked through it with Adele originally, and then she introduced me to Kathy, who has been such a great guide for me through book writing. And every chapter is about, for me, art and design in many aspects of my life. And it's funny because there's a story about being in high school and being, the fat, ugly kid that no one really talked to. And I'd have people that would email me after reading the book and go, I didn't know you had problems in high school. That was me. So I realized, I said it earlier, but stories are so universal.
Mm.
And me and her we kind of connected a little bit, but when she read my book, we connected. We connected on a deeper level, right? And, I recently met one of the neighbors, and she goes, oh, and I dropped off my book with her. She came over after she read my book. I just had met her. She gave me a big hug and she goes, I feel like I know you. We have so much in common. So what story writing has done for me and storytelling is made me connect with people that in many ways I would not have connected with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it transpires into my work as well. It's like, I'm talking to my clients at a deeper level. Like, it's like I say, it's not, okay, let's talk business, of course, but let's talk about everything behind the business. How do you deal with customer support? How do you deal with someone who complains? How do you deal with a distraught client? That to me is, let's get to the crux of it. So storytelling and writing has helped me not only in my personal life with my book, talking about art and design in everyday life, but how does that transpire into work?
Yeah. Because, how you do anything is how you do everything, right?
That is a really good way to put it. Yes. Because people think, oh, the green velvet chair in my book is it's for designers. It's not actually for designers. It's for everyone.
Yeah.
It's how you do your hair. It's the glasses that you chose to complement your face shape. It's art and design is everywhere. It's the colors we choose. It's that beautiful painting you've got behind you, or photography.
My brother's work. He's a photographer.
It's beautiful. The green wall behind it, like, that's all art and design. Balance. You look at graffiti. If you really look at it, it's balanced. It's not all off on one side, and that may be made by 100 different people. They're all coming in art and design and balance and composition, and that's a natural talent that we each have. But I think for me, it's a muscle. The more, I'm a graphic designer, but I paint, I draw, I sew, I do a lot of different things. So I'm flexing my muscles all the time in creative ways. And I think that's making me a better designer when I'm doing my actual work.
Yeah, because each way that you strengthen that muscle, that's another layer.
Exactly. So for me, art and design in everyday life, I really want people just to become aware of, people will say, oh, you're an artist. I can't even draw a straight line. And I always say a straight line is pretty boring. Draw a crooked line, draw a curved line. That's more interesting. We don't have to draw a straight line to be an artist. And we are all artists in our own way. How we talk, how we walk, the jewelry we pick, the sports that we're involved in. That's all part of, designing our world, designing our life visually and, in many other ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize that I was creative or had any artistic ability until I was in my 50s, because that brother was the artist in the family and we were only allowed one.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, I come from a creative family. I'm the only designer, but my brother's an accountant who has a coffee shop. So he's combined business with meeting people and over coffee. Like, he's made that his business, which is creative.
Yeah.
My other brother is very creative in what he does, and my sister is very creative in many other ways. So we came from my dad, who was a woodworker, and my mom, who was a sewer, and they taught us how to think creatively. So no matter what we do, creativity is not just the visual or even story writing. It's exercising your brain, and
it's curiosity.
It's curiosity, and it's creative thinking and problem solving. That's a huge part of being creative, is solving problems in the best creative, most efficient way. Not always the most efficient, but the most creative.
Yeah. And the way I've always approached anything is, if everybody was going in one direction, I had to go see what was happening the other direction first.
That's exactly what I told my husband yesterday. We were looking for a parking spot, and I said, when everyone goes zig, we go zag.
Yeah.
So instead of following everybody, let's go zag.
Yeah, that's not necessarily the best way. We don't know that yet.
Yeah.
But it's embracing, like, the creative part of me like that late in life has been so interesting because I used to like feel guilty about like not going along with the tribe. But now it gets me so excited because every day I start with like, okay, what's going to happen today? It's not going to be what I think it is.
Yeah. And I obviously you were always creative. You just started
Yeah, I
using the
didn't
word
know.
to describe you, right?
Yeah, I didn't know. I was creative in the ways and more practical ways because I was the one that had to take care of everybody and do all the
Yes.
things. But
Yes.
um, just giving myself the permission to be creative opened up so many different um, ways of thinking and opportunities and connections, and it's been life changing. I mean, even the storytelling. I've been doing this for years, and I didn't realize it for years.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize what I was doing because it was just I had to get things done.
Yes.
So people embrace your creative side as soon as you possibly can.
Hmm. And I do believe storytelling is a huge part of business because we all can resonate with the story. We can't always resonate with the technical aspects of what you're doing and how you're doing it. But when you tell me that's going to change lives because of this, this, and this, okay, that's a lot more interesting. Now I'm intrigued by what you do in your work. So
People
stories.
people don't care till they can feel themselves in
Yes.
what you're presenting.
Yes. Definitely. I agree with that.
And that does take listening, which is what I have claimed to be the most underutilized marketing skill that there is.
Amen. Yes. When we're listening, we're learning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, listening is such an important skill. And I just learned to, like I say, I just learned to talk because I've always been the listener. But now I guess I'm trying to share the wisdom that I have gained through the years, and hopefully that resonates through all the listening that I have done. So
Oh, I'm sure it does because most people aren't doing that. And when you're listening, you're not just listening with your ears, you're listening with all your senses. And
yes,
you're watching and you're watching people's reactions and anticipating like how they're going to react to different things or what um, for me when I talk to people even in Zoom or in person, whatever, even on the phone, I pay attention to the words that they get excited about.
yes,
I call them internal keywords
love that.
because that's what they're going to react to.
Yes,
They're telling you, but most people don't do that. They're looking to what somebody else did.
yes, very true. And I have found even with after COVID, doing so many Zoom calls, less in person, it was like, wow, I can really read body movement and eye blinks and the nod of the head, or you know what I mean, the posture. Like, wow, are we ever getting good at reading the visual cues as well
Yeah.
as what's coming out of their mouth? Like, I
Mhm.
think we've become very perceptive at who people are and what they're saying and what's important to them. And I think that's a real gift in many ways. COVID was not a gift, but good things came out of that in many ways, right?
Well, when you're like this on Zoom, there's no distractions really. There's no other people around. There's not much going on that's going to take your attention away. And you could really focus. And the other thing that I think is interesting, and I'd love to hear what you think about this, I love when people have real backgrounds. I don't like fake
Oh,
backgrounds.
I'm with you
I
on
want
that
to
one.
know. I want to know where you are.
Yeah.
I want to know what's around you because what's around you in this space where you spend most of your life, probably at this point,
Yes.
um, what's around you is what's important.
Yes. Completely agree. That's actually a really, really good point. Because I surround myself with art, and this
Mhm.
isn't art that I've done. This is art from my colleagues, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow, this is actually quilting.
Hmm.
These
Oh, yeah.
flowers are
I
actually
used to
quilted.
admire it. They're beautiful.
It's incredible, and this room inspires me. But it's not my work. It's people that I've worked with through the years. That it's like now they're sales reps are now painters and artists and very gifted. And it's like, can you imagine going from sales in a painting? And it's like, wow, you are expressing yourself in a way that I didn't know you as a sales rep.
Mhm.
So it's like we do have that hidden artistic talent, and man, it's liberating to expose it, right?
Yeah, I have a friend who was a birth doula and a Chinese medicine practitioner, and acupuncturist, and during COVID, she had to close down her office, and she started taking an online art course from the New York Botanical Gardens, and it's botanical drawings that are very intricate, and they're gorgeous. Like, I mean, she draws a lot of flowers, a lot of fruit, vegetables, and they look like photographs.
Wow,
They're
beautiful.
absolutely beautiful. And this is what she's doing now. And she's like doing art shows, and she's so happy. She's teaching classes. And it
Beautiful.
was something she did like 30 years ago before she had kids.
Wow, I love that. Because I do think art and design, no matter what form it does help relieve stress.
Hmm.
It creates some tranquility. Like I can imagine her noodling away with all those details. That's a calming and a thinking
Yeah.
process, but also calming and reducing stress, I believe, and solving problems. There's lots of design problems, I'm sure, in drawing intricate botanicals. So,
Yeah. And she's got a beautiful gardens around her home. So
wow,
she draws what's in her yard.
I love that.
I'll send you
Beautiful.
a link to her website.
Oh, I love that. Beautiful.
And I think so many people get wrapped up in the work that they do that they don't recognize that every single thing has an element of art to it. Like, even if you're a plumber, there's an art to being a plumber, you know?
Oh, in fact, I had talked to a plumber was in this networking group, and we were talking about art and design, and she's a plumber, and she's
Hmm.
going, Laura, you wouldn't realize how artistic and creative it is to make all the pipes straight and
Hmm.
perpendicular. And then she goes, I look back at it, it's artwork, all
Yeah,
these pipes and the way I've connected them. And I'm going, didn't think of it that way, but absolutely, it's everywhere.
yeah, it really is. It really is. And you know, tell me more about the book. I want to hear more about the book. What are some other stories in there?
Um, there's lots of stories. I'm in my second edition. I launched it 4 years ago. And then I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So Kathy said, you know what? And so it kind of got orphaned in a way.
Mm.
Kathy had said, you know what? 4 years later, you're good. Let's relaunch it with the second edition. So I wrote some new content, and there's various stories in there. I love sewing. There's a chapter on Barbie dolls. Barbie is my inspiration and an inspiration to women all around the world, whether you like Barbie or not. I find it the whole concept of the Barbie world very inspiring. You can be whatever you want to be. And
Mhm.
I think in many ways that started with Barbie in 1959. So
Mhm.
anyway, I sew a lot of Barbie doll clothes. So there's a story about that. I visit art galleries all the time. We were in Palm Springs, and there's a story about me taking my granddaughter, who was just a little 4 or 5 at the time, and we were walking through the art gallery, and there's a story about kind of transcending generations. I went to art college. I loved art and design. And here's this little girl, and she ran up to this abstract painting with big, bold colors and squares. She goes, Nana, this picture's for kids. And we went and we looked at it and went, of course, it was this famous abstract artist. But she goes, this one's for kids. So it kind of transcended age, generation, and our thoughts. And it was like she could relate to this masterpiece at a
Yeah.
kid's level, and I could relate to it as everything I know. And to be
Mm.
honest, I had an instructor in art college who said, we're all going to profess to paint as a child again. Everything we learned, throw it away, throw the rules away, paint as a child. So that was a lesson to me. It was like, wow, art has transpired generations. There's
Mhm.
stories like that. There's stories about Halloween costumes. We were
Mhm.
Herman and Lillian Munster in one of our, and I loved painting faces and sewing
Mhm.
costumes. So it's making ravioli and taking
Mhm.
those traditions and moving forward. Food is such an important part of our culture.
Yeah.
It's an art form, right? So making ravioli with, again, generations of women in my family, we do that every Christmas.
Mhm.
Stories about that. Of course, there's stories about the green velvet chair.
Mhm.
It's actually behind me. I put it here for the interview, but my mother did that, and at the time, we all thought that chair is a piece of junk, and she sanded it down, stripped it all down, picked some beautiful moss-colored green, reupholstered it, and it was like now it proudly sits there, going, "That was inspiring." At the time, I didn't see her vision, right?
Yeah.
So if you read between the lines in the book, it's about art and design, but it's about vision. It's
Mhm.
about perspective. There's a story about the family cat who frequently sits in front of the blinds that are closed in our bedroom. And I'm going, why? He looks like he's staring in front of a blank wall. So one day I laid beside him on the floor and we had Venetian blinds that were closed. But
Mhm.
I laid from his perspective and I realized you can see strips of light through the
Mhm.
Venetian blinds, right? So he was seeing the strips of light. So he could see the backyard, but he was only seeing strips of it. And I thought, I wonder if he's putting those together in his brain.
Mhm.
So when I laid down and saw these strips of light, and I could see slivers of the sky and the trees and the wind blowing, but what it did for me was made me realize how many of us are seeing the world through those strips of light,
Mhm.
and how many of us are seeing the world with blinds wide open,
Mhm.
checking our sources, seeing different perspectives, talking to different people, and really gaining a really true, comprehensive point of view. I think that maybe is missing in a lot of people's world. So, it's,
Everything's a little black and white.
yeah, so it's really making sure we're seeing the world through eyes or blinds wide open.
Mhm.
So that's to me a story that I get asked a lot about, and it's a cat. It's a cat story. Some people will see it nothing more than a cat story. Some people go, "Wow, that's really deep. That's really profound." So the stories are as deep or as light as the reader chooses to see into them. Right. The high school story is, me, the shy, quiet one, and I decided I was going to go to my 10-year high school reunion. I never got noticed in high school. I walked into the high school. I had, learned how to dress my budgie body. I learned how to do hair and makeup. And I
Mhm.
walked in and one of the popular boys ran ahead of me, popular boys in high school. He ran ahead of me and he opened the door and he said, "After you." And I thought, whoa, he wouldn't have given me the time of day in
Yeah.
high school. And then he looked at my name tag that had my high school picture on and goes, "Ooh, you're Laura?" He goes, "I wouldn't have opened the door for you then, but I'll open it for you now." And I think he thought he was flattering me,
Nice.
but it was, "You're not flattering me because I'm the same person as I was
Yeah.
10
So you
years
went to
ago."
high school with Al Bundy, huh?
But that did for me, it's about personal brand. I'm
Yeah.
the same person.
Yeah.
I just polished the outside.
Yeah.
You didn't see that person in high school, but when you polish the outside, all of a sudden you notice me.
Well,
And this happened.
he
So,
wasn't
yeah,
looking through open blinds.
exactly. So there's stories in here that are a little bit deeper. To me, it's about your brand is not your shiny logo. Your brand is the values and the ethics and the morals behind the logo. So that's kind of how I weave that together with brand versus personal brand. So there's stories like that. I think they kind of hit a nerve with some people that,
Mhm.
wow, there's something here. But really, honestly, I didn't have a mandate that I wanted these to be profound stories. I
Mhm.
just wrote stories from the heart and they kind of translated into something that maybe is a bit deeper for hopefully most of the readers.
Yeah. Well, it's open to interpretation, right? So each reader can take from it what is meant for them.
Hmm. Yes, but is it for designers? No, it's for it's
Certainly.
for for anyone who wants to kind of
Mhm.
dig a little deeper into creativity,
Mhm.
especially in today's world of AI. It's like let's keep our brains active and exercise those creative muscles.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's critical.
Yeah. Totally. I love AI, but I don't use it the way most people do. And but I can see where it it will dull creativity.
Yeah, I mean, I use AI for efficiency. There's lots of great tools to make me work faster and stronger and better, but I don't use it when I'm thinking creatively. I like to exercise my brain. So yeah, we're at an interesting point in time.
I know. I I go back and forth between like going, oh my God, how did we get here, to what a time to be alive, and like everything in between.
Yes, yes, I agree. I agree. It's a challenging time, but also a time of opportunity. And like I said earlier, I'm leading with kindness. I have come to that as my way to move forward.
Yeah,
Lead with kindness.
I agree. Kindness, community, um, generosity, all of those things are what I want to open doors with.
Yes. And I think it's what the world needs.
Hmm.
Mental health is a fragile state, and
Yeah,
it's like we need to be kind to each other.
yeah, I agree. On that note, I'm going to take that as your wisdom bomb, because I usually ask for a wisdom bomb at the end of this, and I think you just nailed it. But thank you for spending some time, and thank you for sharing your brilliance. And everybody, please connect with Laura at lauraballerini.com or at bluebrown.com, her design agency. And if you have questions, comments, you're listening to the replay, post them, tag us. We'll come back and we'll keep the conversation going. And we will be back next week with more. Have a great Wednesday, everyone. And thank you, Laura.
Thank you so much, Donna. Appreciate it.